Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
You are one of the experts when it comes to technology in Africa. There's been a lot of talk regarding regulating big tech. Let's get your thoughts on what you think about whether or not big tech should be regulated.
Regulation has always been a tool to create standards so that society can benefit from any new thing or something that has existed. And new tech is, emerging technologies, big tech cannot escape, the conversations. You can never regulate something before it starts. If you regulate something before it starts, then you kill it. You have to allow it to grow. Even big tech itself admits the fact that some form of regulation is required, especially when you have a novel area where everyone needs to agree on certain standards. A very example is all of the conversation around artificial intelligence. Of course, we need standards. We need ethical standards. We need standards that enhance trust. We need standards that make sure that it is not profit over people. It is profit, but with people in mind.
For the case of Nigeria, where you are, you had issues when maybe about 2 years ago, when the government decided to ban crypto, and they brought in their own cryptocurrency. But people figured out a way to walk around it, and they were able to continue using some of that crypto. Would it be fair to say that some of these regulators maybe also need to learn about this technology before they come and maybe try to regulate it?
You raise a very important point. The people who are deploying emerging technologies, they themselves are also still learning. So you can't just come in and say you want to ban this and ban that. You have to understand it. I think that one of the most important things that regulators, governments must understand is that when something new comes, you have to ask yourself 4 questions. Number 1 is, what is this? And you're not asking what is this because you're afraid of it. You're asking what it is because you then want to ask a next question. The next question is, how do we benefit from this as a people? How does the national economy benefit from this? How does the socio-cultural space benefit from this? How do jobs benefit from this? When you ask that question, then the third question is, how do we create standards that everyone can conform to, that everyone can benefit from? Not how do we control it, how do we create standards? And the fourth question, which is critical, is if something goes wrong, how do people seek redress?
Here in the United States, for example, we had lawmakers bring in big tech. They wanted to know what they can do or to work around to come up with legislation that can sort of put guardrails in place to make sure that when people are online, especially on social media, they are not harmed. How can African governments come up with that kind of legislation where they are trying to protect citizens from being harmed on the internet?
Yes. First of all, seeking to understand. Secondly, asking questions of how do we benefit. Thirdly, then building policy around standards and not control. And fourthly, making sure that if anything goes wrong, people can seek redress. This is the 4-step process that African governments can maximize.
What is required, let's say, to have proper legislation instead of legislating based on fear that some opposition party is going to use this technology to advance their cause?
If you legislate from a place of fear, if you legislate from a place of control, you are setting yourself up for trouble. And what do I mean by that? Whatever standards you create now to punish other people, whenever you go into opposition, because you will lose elections at some point. This is Africa. You will lose elections. The elite will gang up with another political party at some point and you will lose elections. And when you do, those control tools, those surveillance equipment that you bought and invested in will be used against you. I tell government officials, this is the first law of reciprocity. Whatever you create as a weapon will be used against you eventually. So you must create standards that are favorable, yet effective.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Paul.